Could Marcel Reed be the quarterback MVP of the spring game?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So, today, ladies and gentlemen, as we inch closer and closer to the spring game, we're going to go position by position on offense and defense and say, who's going to play the best at each position? And I've got a bold take. I have a bold take to start everybody's Wednesday. I think there's a chance that Marcel Reed outplays Conner Weigman. And when I say that, I want to be perfectly clear what I mean. I don't necessarily think that Marcel Reed is going to look better in every facet of the game. You have to remember that the quarterback's legs aren't going to be a part of this because it's spring game and you're not going to be running the football with your quarterback, having them get tackled. So the reason I think there's a chance that Marcel Reed outplays Conner Weigman is I just think that if he plays a little bit worse, when I say a little bit, like marginally worse, or the same as Conner Weigman, the hype train is going to get built up for Marcel Reed. I'm going to let you know a little secret. Every college fan base loves their backup quarterback. And you want to know why that is? Because sometimes we get frustrated with our starting quarterbacks as college football fans. And when you do that, the backup always seems like the better option. And so what I'm saying is I think this could be more of an optic thing than a reality thing. I'm not worried about Conner Weigman being the starter. I'm not worried about him playing well in the spring game. What I'm saying is I think if Marcel Reed – listen, if you remember back to last spring game, Max Johnson made some incredible throws where I came on the show here. I took over a few weeks after the spring game, but I came on the show and I said, listen, if you watch that game back, these quarterbacks both played pretty well, both made a lot of great throws. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. I think that if we leave this game going, hey, Conner Weigman looked really good, but you know what? Marcel Reed looked really good. I think that could create a little bit of, I think uncertainty is the wrong word, but I do think the right word might be what it would create is maybe there's more of a battle than we think. And we've discussed this for a few weeks here now on the show. But, I think a quarterback battle is good. And I think that Marcel Reed outplaying, and I do think that Marcel Reed playing about the same as Conner Weigman, in essence, is outplaying him because Weigman's the incumbent. We think he's going to be the guy. So, I think there's a chance that Reed could be the MVP because, and I want to reiterate this, I'm trying to get this point home well. I don't think that he is going to fully outplay Weigman. I don't see that happening, but I think that he could play similar to him to where we go, wow, Marcel Reed was a winner. He looked just about as good as Conner Weigman did. And that's what I'm getting at. I think there's a world where Marcel Reed is the quarterback MVP of the spring game, and it leaves everybody scratching their head going, maybe this is more of a race than we thought. So that's quarterback. So some positions, I'm going to give you two names. Some I'm going to give you one. Obviously, at quarterback, if I give you two names, that's kind of boring because there's really only three names we're going to be talking about. So, but running back, I'll give you two names, but I'm going to give you the MVP. And for me, that's Rueben Owens. I think he's going to outplay Le'Veon Moss in this game. I feel good about Le'Veon Moss going forward. I also think that spring games are an opportunity for the coaching staff to really show off some weapons, show off their shiny new toys. And I think Rueben Owens is a player who's going to be really improved this season. I think he's going to take a huge leap forward. And we know what we got in Le'Veon Moss. I think every Texas A&M fan feels really good about what we have in Le'Veon Moss. I don't think there's much concern there. So when you look at that and you say to yourself, okay, we know what we got in Le'Veon Moss. I think that Reuben Owens is going to be the one that's going to impress some folks. I think the theme that I'm going to kind of get across here is we know what we have in some, like Terrion York, right? Well, here's a little spoiler. I don't have Terrion York down for linebacker because want to know why? We know what we got. No, if he plays well, we're all going to feel great, but we're going to be talking about another linebacker because we know what we have in York. And so we'll get to that. But so I think that Reuben Owens is going to make some plays that has folks going, hey, we know how good Le'Veon Moss is, but Reuben Owens played a good football game. He looks like he's the real deal. So I do think that Reuben Owens is going to win the MVP in the running back room. I think Le'Veon Moss is the other name I have written down. I think he's going to play well as well. But I just think Reuben Owens is going to prove to us in this game, hey, I'm the dude. I got this. Watch out. For offensive line, I have Chase Bisontis. So, Coach Klein came out and said that he was asked, is he going to play guard? Is he going to play tackle? Coach Klein said, we're going to move around. We're going to see. So I'm kind of anxious to see what they do with him in the spring game. Do they move him inside? Do they leave him outside? Last year, Chase Bisontis did a lot well. He was a true freshman. Playing offensive line as a true freshman in the SEC is, I can't, the only thing I can think of that might be as difficult is completing a Rubik's Cube. Like, that's what we're talking about here. It is impossible to play in the SEC as an offensive lineman as a true freshman. It takes so much strength that a lot of times these 18-year-olds just don't have compared to 23-year-old super senior defensive linemen. So was Bisontis perfect last year? Was he great? No. But I think he showed promise, and we're going to see that on display this season. The next guy I got down here is Trey Zune. I think that Trey Zune is going to take this step. I think he was fine last year. I do. I think he was okay last year. And I think he could be great this year. He's healthy. He talked about that. I think he's feeling good. He's ready to rock and roll. I'm excited about what Trey Zune is going to do for this team. So I think Bisontis is going to leave us the most excited when it comes to the offensive line. But I think that Trey Zune is going to have a good game and prove, hey, I'm a dude. And remember, you're going against one of, I think, the nation's best defensive lines. So if these two look good, you're not doing it against a random team. You're doing it against one of the best defensive lines in college football. So if you look good in this game, you can look good against anybody. Then at tight end, I've got Jaden Platt. I think that Jaden Platt is going to really separate himself in this football game. I like him. I like Donovan Green. I haven't seen much updates on Donovan Green's health and status. I'm excited for Green. I still think Green's the guy in the season. Will he, I'm still feel good about Green when it comes to the actual season. But I think Platt, I'm buying more into the Jaden Platt hype. And I think if he puts on a show in the spring game, that hype could continue and continue and continue to build until, we're really on the Platt hype train. So I think he could have a good game here and he'll be the tight end MVP. At receiver, I go back and forth, ladies and gentlemen. As you every day here at Locked On Aggies know, some days I'm Ja'Day Walker, some days I'm Moose, some days I'm Noah Thomas, and some days I'm Micah T, some days I'm Jabari Barber and Cyrus Allen. It depends on the day, my opinion on this wide receiver room, because I think there's a lot of talent, a lot of guys who can prove themselves to be a wide receiver one. But I just feel like Moose is going to play well in the spring game. We know what he can do. And that's kind of like what I talked about with like a York or a Le'Veon Moss. You know who Moose is. You know what he can do. But I think he'll be better utilized this year and better utilized under this coaching staff. And I think that we'll see hopefully that role in the spring game. And he can prove, hey, listen, I'm a dude. I am that guy. Don't forget who I am. Watch out. I'm coming for a huge season. I want to be an NFL player. And I think you could see the start of that trend here at the spring game. And then continuing on that, so he'll be my MVP at receiver, but then continuing on that hype train, it's Micah Tease. I think Micah Tease is going to have a really good game. I think he's going to prove to us, is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be the first receiver off the bench? Whatever he is, he will have a role in this offense, and it will be a substantial one. So I'm excited to see how these two receivers look, but there's a lot of names we could have had. So let me know in the YouTube comments, offensive players at each position. Who would be your MVP? Is there a name that I didn't say for some of these positions that you think could be the MVP in the spring game? Let me know that in the YouTube comments. We'll talk a little bit about the defense and why I think we have two defensive linemen who are going to need to prove themselves in this game. We'll talk about that and these defensive MVPs for the spring game coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our wonderful friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on the app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. There's a ton of fun stuff on FanDuel right now. NBA playoffs, whether you're a huge NBA fan or not, I like betting on the NBA playoffs. It's fun. And I got a buddy who's a really huge NBA fan, and me and him watch games. We were watching the game last night, actually, and Steph Curry was 2 points away from hitting the bet. So thank you, Steph Curry, for that. You broke my heart. But I'm not a huge NBA guy. What makes it more fun is heading over to FanDuel and putting a little bit of money where your mouth is and having a great time with your buddies watching basketball. You got to go check out FanDuel. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So let's get into the defense. So first of all, here on defense, I've got, and I want to explain why. I've got Nic Scourton. And I know everybody's like, gosh, this Andrew, this punk, I mean, he just won't shut up about Nic Scourton. I will not shut up about Nic Scourton because I think he's going to have a monstrous season, as you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know, but I want to see him prove it. Prove it, okay? I can sit here. We can watch tape on him at Purdue all day long. We could sit. We'll go grab a beer and we'll watch Nic Scourton tape until we feel great. It isn't hard, but I want to see him do it here. You know, last year's great. Cool. 10 sacks. Love it. It's great. Do I think that's going to transfer? Of course, you'd be crazy not to think it won't transfer. But I would love to see Nic Scourton go out and prove it. Go get a sack in a spring game. You know, obviously a sack in a spring game is a little different because, you know, you give him a little shoulder tap. Hey, you're down, buddy. But I want to see him prove. I've talked about how versatile he is when it comes to different pass rush moves, his ability. I want to see him put it all together on the field. I think Nic Scourton has a chance to be the best player on this football team this season. I think he could be the MVP of the entire season. That is my take on Nic Scourton. That's how good I think he can be. So prove me right. Prove me right in this game. Go play well. Go show us what you got, because all of Aggie Land believes Nic Scourton's going to be a star. So let's see it live and in person. Next defensive. So that's my MVP for defensive line. I think it's not a crazy take, but I think he's going to prove what we've been saying here on the show for months now. Next, I got DJ Hicks, kind of for a similar reason. Prove it. Prove it, dude. We know how talented you are. We know that DJ Hicks can be an absolute star in college football in the SEC. Let's see it. We know how talented he was coming out of high school. We saw him make some plays in the bowl game. We saw him make some plays when he was given opportunities last year. He was buried in a very, very, very deep defensive line room. So now it is your time to go out there and prove it. I think that he's going to have a huge role for this team. I think he's going to have a really, really good season for the Aggies. I feel pretty solid saying that, but I do want to see him go out and prove it. That's the theme today. Prove it. You know, Marcel Reed, you want a shot at this job? Go prove it. Jaden Platt, you want to take over this tight end spot? Go prove it. That's the real takeaway from the show is we got a lot of guys who can take this opportunity in the spring game to show to all Texas A&M fans, I can be on this field. I can start for this team. So go prove it. Then at linebacker, I think that, listen, I didn't write down Taron York. He will be the MVP at linebacker. We know that. But I didn't write him down because we know that. That's not interesting. So I wrote down Scooby Williams. I think that Scooby Williams, I just think that he's got a chance to take over the second linebacker spot. I feel better and better about him. I feel great about his SEC experience coming from Florida. I feel really good. I think that he can be great. I do. I think that he can be the other linebacker on this team, and he can help. I don't think ever really fully developed into who everyone thought he would be at Florida, but I still think he can. So I think this spring game is an opportunity for him to do that. It's an opportunity for him to go, listen, I maybe didn't totally live up to the hype going out of high school, but I'm going to do it here at Texas A&M. So I'd love to see him be the MVP, and I think he will be. And obviously I think York would be, but we're not going to get into that. And then I'm getting in on freshman Jordan Lockhart. He's my other name here. I think that I don't know the role he's going to have this year unless there's some injuries, but I think that linebacker might be the most thin room on the team. You got some of those backups that we don't really feel great about. You got some young guys. You got some young guys that still are on campus. But do we feel good about this room as a whole? I don't know. So I think seeing a guy like Lockhart step up and go, okay, hey, this kid can play. This kid can play right now if we needed him to. I think that would make you feel a lot better about this linebacker room as a whole. At corner, I've got Will Lee, I've got Des Ricks, and I've got Javon Thomas. I think last year, so my MVP, I had to do it. I wrote Will Lee / Des Ricks because I think that one of these two is going to be the MVP of this game. I think both of these guys could have a breakout performance, but I think picking one to be the MVP is going to be tough. They're both really talented. They both have a ton of upside, and they're both going to have a good season. I think they could both start. So picking one to be the MVP was really difficult, so I just hate both of them. And then Javon Thomas, I know he got burned at times last year. I know he had a few rough games. He had a few rough showings. But at the end of the day, I do think that he can have a good season. And I think long-term, he can be a really, really good player for Texas A&M. So I think that Javon Thomas is a guy to monitor in this game as well. I think corner is going to be really interesting. You got a ton of guys I'm excited to see, and a ton of transfers I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what Jaden Hill does. Saunders, I'm really excited to see how this room looks as a whole in this game. I would love for us to leave the spring game going, hey, I'm not as concerned about the corner room as I was heading into the spring game. I feel better about it. That and offensive line are my two most significant concerns for this Texas A&M football team. And maybe I'll give you this warning right now. Don't be too concerned or overhyped by what happens in the spring game. The spring game doesn't mean much. As much as we enjoy it and as much as it creates a ton of fun talking points here at the show, and it'll create a lot of fun the week after and the week leading in and all that, I don't think you can take too much stock out of that game just because it's not – I don't know how legit it is. I do like the way they're doing it. I like the way they're doing it, drafting teams. I think that's really smart. I wish more teams did that. I think that's the best way to go about it, to really get kind of your best on best rather than your ones versus twos and vice versa. So I like the way they're doing it, but I think that all fans need to make sure let's not be overly concerned with anything that happens in this game. Then at safety, I've got Ratcliffe, the transfer. I really like Ratcliffe. I think he's going to have a good showing. I think he's got a shot to work his way into the lineup and play some significant snaps for this football team. So I'm excited to see what he does. I've heard some good things about him. I think the coaching staff likes him. I think he's the guy who really could start if he continues to play well in the spring game, into the summer, and then when the season starts here down the road in a few months. And then I've got the freshman Jordan Pride. I like Jordan Pride a lot. I like Miles Davis a lot. I think you could have put in both their names down and with Dash and said, hey, one of these two guys. I think both of them are going to be really good. What does their role look like as freshmen? I think that is going to be a little bit interesting. I don't know how many relevant snaps they're going to play. Are they going to be out there a ton, a little bit, not at all? That'll be something to monitor. But safety is a position I feel better. I don't know if I feel better about safety than corner. I think I'm equally concerned about safety and corner. I think that you did a great job adding depth in the portal. I think this coaching staff did a great job making me feel better about this room in the portal. But I still think that long-term, there's some things I would like to see fixed. And I think this spring game is an opportunity for these players to prove, hey, we're okay. We got this. I know folks are concerned about us when it comes to the season, but this secondary is going to be fine. So those are the MVPs on both sides of the football. Let me know in the YouTube comments. Is there a name you wish was there that wasn't there? Is there somebody you don't think should be on there that I didn't have? Let me know those things in the YouTube comments. The Aggies walk it off against UTSA to continue dominance in midweek baseball games. We'll talk about that win and why I'm so happy about this win. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. The Game Time app is not just the best, but the only place anybody should ever purchase a ticket to anything, whether it's a concert, it's comedy, you're going to see some theater type of thing, it's a sporting event. You got to go to Game Time. It is the only place I will ever buy a ticket to any event the rest of my life. It is so easy to use. The app is easy. The best prices you can find. And what I love most about it is being able to see what your seat looks like, see what the vantage point from your seat is. When I go to a ball game, I like to sit where I want to sit. Okay. Now, this might be a bold take. I'm an outfield sit MLB fan. I like to sit behind the dish in the outfield. I like to see if a ball is going to be down or not. I like to see pitches move. I enjoy it. I like getting to play umpire in the outfield. Looks like a strike from here. I'm that guy. So I like to know where I'm going to sit. I like to see what it looks like from where I'm going to sit. And Game Time shows you. It's so convenient. It's so nice. You have got to go check out Game Time. It is the best place to go get all your tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So let's talk a little bit about this win over UTSA on the diamond. Walk-off win. Walk-off home runs are fun. Shout out to Jackson Appel for that one. Bomb. Little oppo action. Love it. So this was frustrating. UTSA goes up 4-0 in the second inning because you kicked the baseball around. 4 unearned errors, which I always find funny as a pitcher. I don't know how, if a pitcher makes an error, it should get credited as an earned run. If you disagree, any baseball connoisseurs like myself, let me know y'all's thoughts on that in YouTube comments. That always would frustrate me, as I was a pitcher. So, I mean, it shouldn't have frustrated me, but when I was always really bad when I would field a grounder on the mound. I was great at fielding my position, but then I was horrible. That throw, when you're used to trying to shove cheese, you're trying to throw the ball as hard as you can, and then you've got to do this little throw over to first base. I used to throw that thing away all the time in high school. It wasn't really an issue in college because I started to just kind of throw a little bit more firm. But that's beside the point. Point here is you boot the ball around a little bit and give UTSA 4 unearned runs, right? And that can't happen. But you answer. They go up 4-0. They punch you in the face early. You make some silly mistakes. 4 total errors in this game, 4 unearned runs, but you find a way to come back and win. Look at the SEC today. I'm pretty sure now Florida got steamrolled. It was Florida State. So now it was 17-3, I think, at one point. I'm not sure they lost, but I don't know how they'd have come back from that. Auburn loses to Alabama State. Kentucky loses to Samford. Now, Auburn is pretty bad, but Kentucky is playing really good baseball, and they lose to Samford. Like, these midweek games are not gimmies. They aren't. Don't let anybody convince you these games are just gimmies. So just keep finding the way to win. I don't care what the score is. I don't care if it's 107 to 104. I don't care if it's 0-1. I don't care how you win. Just win. Like, these games, it's hard to get pumped up for these midweek games. It is. I've been there playing college. It's hard to get up when you're not facing a conference opponent, but you've got to find a way to win. I don't care. Blood, sweat, tears, scratch, claw, find a way to win. And the Aggies did in this game. Jackson Appel, just a monster game. 3 for 4, 3 runs scored, 4 RBIs, a walk. Shot stays hot, which is really fun to say. He was 2 for 4 in this game. Cortez was able to lock it down late in the game. 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Morton, what kind of got him into trouble aside from, him booting around and everybody booting the ball around was 2 walks and hit by pitch, 6 total free bases. But you feel good about this win because, once again, I love this win. This is one of my favorite wins of the season. Want to know why? Because it was gritty. It was ugly, and I love it. You found a way to win a baseball game. Other SEC teams, because it's hard to get up for these games. You think that Alabama State's better than Auburn? Do you think that Samford's better than Kentucky? No. But sometimes good teams lose to bad teams in baseball. That's what baseball is. So Texas A&M has yet to do that. They have yet, and there's been a couple where you go, oh, it's going to be today. When I saw the scoreboard early and I was watching this game, I went, yeah, we're in trouble here. But you find a way, and that is what matters. I love this win. I love this team. The Aggies are going to Omaha. I feel so confident about that. Later in the week, we'll break down the Vandy series. It's going to be a fun one. Going to be a lot of fun. Home series for the Aggies. Can't wait to break that down and can't wait to watch that play out live. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. I really do appreciate it. I hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their Wednesday, and we will see you tomorrow.